Okay, let's go ahead and begin. Welcome to today's live stream for the Digital Futures, Inclusive Futures 2021 workshops. And this is Hacking Machine Learning Style Transfer Workshop, day 3. Just to recap, we've had 2 previous workshop days. The first was an introductory lecture about the process. The second was a working session, helping students or helping workshop participants work through the style transfer process and next steps. Then after that, there was a requested tutorial. And so that was kind of an addendum to the regular meetings. And we had a successful tutorial. And now we're following up today, hoping to see students work and respond to it, help them through the process. Tomorrow will be kind of the final presentation of everyone's work. And we will have all of the submissions reviewed for inclusion in the Tongji University exhibition and the digital online exhibition at digitalfutures.world. So without any further delay, we'll go ahead and get into the process. And what I'd like to kind of recap here is that with that tutorial, I started to work through the process myself as basically a case study for all of the workshop participants. By no means is it amazing work. It's just an example of the work, and hoping that you find it helpful in your process. As you can see on the screen, I believe I'm sharing my screen. You should be able to see the beginnings of that process, where I started with a style transfer regiment and followed up with some context and some scale added to it in the form of the image, as you see on the top of the screen. And then after the tutorial, with the tutorial, I was able to model through that exercise and start to create the 3D environment. And one of the nice things about the 3D environment is it's no longer us just looking at an image of this scene, but now we're actually able to kind of go and experience the scene and traverse through the terrain and kind of experience what it might be like to actually be in that experience. This is, I believe, the hardest part of the process, and the part where the designer's skills are really expressed in their abilities to kind of translate the style transfer process into some form of reality, whether it be virtual reality or actual kind of constructed, built form, whatever that might be, you know, along that range, everything in between. So, so this is the kind of the place that I got to after the 4-hour tutorial, taking the style transfer image on the top and then starting to work through it in a modeling environment. One thing that I wanted to stress today and talk about was the need to use some sort of external rendering capability beyond just the modeling software you're using. There are a lot of wonderful tools that are available to us now that were not previously available, that allow us to take a 3D model and start to place it into an environment and navigate around that environment. And I think that's pretty vital to the process in general, but then also the style transfer process, being able to kind of, you know, feel like you're there and experience it in that way is really, really helpful. So in the beginning of the tutorial, I mentioned as one of the software requirements that you have access to either Unreal Engine's Twinmotion or to Netscape. Those are the 2 key ones that I found to be most productive. But there is, of course, the video gaming engines themselves, like Unreal Engine or Unity, et cetera, et cetera. I know Blender has some plugins for navigation. From my experience, they haven't been as successful as some of these other ones that I just mentioned, but they do have those things. And then obviously I'm open to new ideas, and if you have a tool that you prefer and that you feel like is most useful to you, then that's great, and I would love to know about that, and it would be useful for the rest of the workshop participants to be able to understand what you're using and what you're what the benefits of that system are. So let me just give you a quick kind of preview of my Netscape environment, so that you can kind of get a sense of what I've created here. And the idea here for me is that we're not just trying to reproduce that initial image that we saw in the style transfer process, but we're really focused on trying to create an entire environment, something that feels like you could be there in some way. And that's what I'm thinking about. So here with Netscape, we're really able to kind of look around and see what it feels like to be in this place in some degree. And we can kind of start to move through the space and get a sense of what it might look like to be there. And, you know, I'm not so happy with the fact that there's this kind of singular building here in the center. And if I were to improve this, I think that I would start to think about populating this with other buildings. Even within the original image, we have this kind of boxy object here that's populating the landscape that I haven't started to model. Hey, good morning, Henrik. Thank you for joining. Thanks a lot. We have this other object that's populating the landscape there, and I think that it would make sense to kind of continue that population throughout the space. And by no means is this done. Like, for example, if you come back in here and really scrutinize this image, I really feel like that this object here, this, I don't know, several story spherical building is quite interesting and has a lot of really nice components to it, specifically in kind of these two areas, right? And I don't feel like that I'm getting to that level of sophistication and articulation in the second model quite yet. This was a quick pass, you know, just a simple modeling exercise and then supplementation through Grasshopper to get to this, probably like 60% of the way there, maybe 60% of the way there in terms of what I was hoping to accomplish. We're missing a lot of this kind of articulation here at the bottom that we don't see in the model. We're also missing, you see how we have a lot of this really awkward geometry in these locations here. I want to make it a little more subtle, a little more gradual, a little more organic. And so that's kind of an area of opportunity. Anyway, so we're about 60% of the way there, but that other 40% is very critical. And so it's really important that you start to try and refine these elements to make them feel a little bit more like what we see that takes place in the magic of this style transfer image. So you see, that's one of the beauties about the computer is, like I've said before, its inhibitions and its lack of kind of preference means that it has this ability to kind of apply things in ways that we normally wouldn't apply them. And we as the designer have the opportunity to respond to that. But the important thing is that inhibition creates some things that we would have never really kind of conceived of previously. And it's our opportunity to translate that through the design process into something that makes sense to us in some way. And so we're never going to get 100% there in terms of recreating the magic that's in the image, right? That image is magical because of the ambiguity, the fact that everyone can interpret the image in their own way and apply their own biases to it means that it has this kind of beauty to everyone individually in a little bit of a different way, right? Based on their own lenses that they look through, their own preconceptions, their own reality. And so that reality projected back onto the image gives it that romanticness, maybe, where there is that ambiguity that we see in that. And so then when we start to create a three-dimensional environment, we start to take away some of those ambiguities that make it so appealing. And that's a challenge. It's a real challenge. And I think that Evan alluded to that earlier, where he's like, let the computer keep going and try to use the computer as much as you can to continue the process as possible so that we're kind of removing the artist's hand as much as we can. Now, technically that's quite challenging. And so this workshop isn't focused on really trying to do that. Again, if people are wanting to explore the photogrammetry aspects of style transfer, or the possibility of style transfer to photogrammetry, that's something that's quite interesting to me that we've kind of explored in this workshop, and I'd love to kind of push that further. So just let me know if that's of interest to you. But for now, we're just going to focus on the translation process from the style transfer image into some kind of a virtual environment. And I'm hoping that the output is some beautiful imagery, kind of similar to this image here, and we can kind of pair it with the initial machine learning style transfer image at the top, so we can kind of have this pairing. I think that will be a nice way to kind of present our work tomorrow. So let's work towards that, where we have some kind of a pairing between the original style transfer image and then our 3D modeled experience image below or above or next to it somehow. Let's see, anything else that I want to go over? Oh yeah, so just getting to the 3D model, maybe I'll just kind of bring that on real quick. There are some key kind of tools that I try to incorporate as much as I can, or not that I try to incorporate as much as I can, but more that I find to be useful in kind of quick modeling exercise. One is the polar array, very simple tool. Polar array allows us to kind of get a conglomeration of objects very quickly. It's much faster than trying to use Grasshopper to try and get a randomized selection of objects. You can use polar array quite quickly and start to get a density and an intricacy and a sophistication in terms of objects populating around each other. That's probably one of the ones that I think is most useful, is this polar array idea. And so I can show you in plan here that I've used polar array. Let me see, just a second here. A little bit of a laggy computer. I got Photoshop, Rhino, and live streaming on YouTube all happening at the same time, along with a lot of Chrome tabs and such. But you can see that I've just quickly populated this landscape with these initial spheres that I made in the tutorial the other night. And part of that process was a quick polar array. I started to kind of populate a small section of the landscape, and then I was able to do a polar array and then quickly just kind of rotate a few of them around to give me this sophistication and density that I was hoping for in terms of a landscape. I think that another important aspect is making the landscape fill completely inclusive, so that we're not seeing the environment beyond and wondering why it doesn't match. Do you see here how my environment is kind of all inclusive? There's no element there that feels completely foreign, or like it's not like we see a real hard, strong transition between the fore and midground and the background. You know, we have that background sky and even that background imagery, but it just happens that those things are all kind of merging fairly well, not 100%, but at least fairly well, so that the viewer is not overtaken by this kind of contrasting element that doesn't seem to fit in the scene. And so you have to work to try and make those things align as much as possible. And if you can do that, then the viewer won't be distracted by these other elements, and they can focus more directly on the experience of your model. Oops. So here we see that experience. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to stop sharing my screen, and I'd like to see your progress and where you have been able to get to. Who would like to go first? Ka Wang? Wang Ka? Wang Ke? Ka? I'm sorry for the pronunciation.
Good morning, but I still have some schoolwork and I'm attending class right now, so maybe I just don't share my screen. Can I
Okay.
communicate with you through Discord afterwards? So
Sure.
sorry about that.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the workshop is a voluntary thing. It's not like there's a grade attached or there's any force to it. So it's all a matter of our desire to be a part of the workshop and to kind of work towards results that we're excited about. So if you can't give full participation, that's up to you. So how about Dumeng Shu?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I'm still working on it.
Great, we'd like to see process if you have it available.
I was watching the video you did it last night, so I don't have any progress to show you. I'm sorry. Okay. Maybe tomorrow.
Okay, well, I want to make everyone aware that if you want to be included in the exhibition, we need you to be done tomorrow because we have to get all those resources kind of compiled and submitted for the exhibition. So please hurry, all of you try and really focus. You know, this is a kind of a charrette type experience where we're kind of working hard. It's difficult because we're not all in the same place, so we don't have the opportunity to motivate each other socially as much. But just try and put something together for us tomorrow so we can kind of include that in the exhibition. Okay, Shuhan Lue. I'm sorry for the pronunciation again. Aaron.
Sorry, I'm using the iPad and I'm going to change my computer. Can you wait a minute?
I want to show you stuff. What's that? Sorry.
I'm using the iPad and I'm going to change my computer. Can you wait a minute?
Yeah, sure. We'll try somebody else and then see if we can see. How about you, Alan? Alan, would you like to share with us your progress? Give me 2 minutes, okay? We're gonna just pause for 1 second. I'll be right back. Start working on it. All right, we're back. Sorry about that. Okay, so oh, Alan, you please okay, I'm gonna type. Oh, I sent it to Juan Carlos. Sorry. Okay, so again, just to recap, we're really interested in having people share their progress, and we are looking to be able to respond to the work and give feedback. And so please volunteer to share your work, even if it's incomplete. It is vulnerable to kind of share your work with everyone, and we understand that. And any work you share, we will of course respect and hold in confidence, and it will only be to your benefit to be able to have a conversation about your work and help you to work towards greater success and clarity. So so Alan, if you could share your work, that would be wonderful. Or Shani Zhang, if you could share your work, that would be amazing. We're waiting for Ka Wang, who's moving from his iPad to his desktop, I believe. And so he'll be on with us shortly.
Yeah, could I share my screen now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I can just share my screen because.
Hold on, there we go. That should change it. Please try again.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, this is my image, and I want to create a. I don't know what it is, but I think it may be interesting. Yeah, and I create the model just like this. There's maybe some tower and the train around the middle, and that is my architecture. I don't know how to explain it, but I use machine learning, the style transfer, and create this image and build my model like this. Yeah.
Okay. So go back to your model for us. Have you begun to apply textures at all?
No, I want to use the Photoshop to make the final result.
Ah, okay. Well, I think that there's something interesting about having an experience that you can navigate around. And I'm hoping that we can generate animations if possible. And so if you can, it would be great if you had Netscape or Twinmotion. I know Twinmotion is free for any student. So, and it may be even just free generally, but Twinmotion's a great one, or Netscape, both of those. And I think you could probably start to get this, because if you just take it back into Photoshop, it's almost like you're reproducing the style transfer again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe. I just want to try. I will try the Netscape and make the animation.
Okay. I mean, we don't have to have an animation, but even if you don't produce an animation, one of the beauties of having an animated output or a dynamic output is that you can quickly generate many images. You know, you could take every single frame from the video and that can be its own image. Obviously, it loses its magnitude if you do it that way. So it's important that you're selective with the images that you take. But having that animated output again helps you to kind of generate more imagery. And the nice thing about that is that we no longer are seeing this as a kind of a two-dimensional experience or image. We're starting to see it as kind of this whole spatial environment. That I think is the key there. Can you talk to us a little bit about what looks like windmills back in your original image? Yeah. Can you talk to us about those things, those elements?
I don't know how to describe it because my English is not so well. And
can you do it in Chinese?
OK， 就是我想创造一种那种类似于赛博朋克那种世界，然后选择了这种灯塔，还有中间那个十字架。此外还有就是这种风格的话，有点像那种电脑的芯片，大概就是这样子。
Okay, great.
Okay.
So I don't know what you said, but I imagine what you said was not something about windmills. I imagine what you said was that these objects have their own kind of geometric formation to them. And when I
may help a little bit in translating that.
Okay, great. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. I think he mentioned that he tried to pick up the windmill and the cross in the middle because they look like the style he wants to create, which is more like a cyberpunk. And he also liked the texture of the overall image is like a computer chip. I think. Okay. Yeah.
Good.
More or less.
Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you.
Okay, so Da Xiaohan, so you see those as windmills then? You don't see those as some other object besides a windmill?
Maybe
as a windmill. Okay. When I see that object, I see that as an object other like similar to the main object in the center, where it has its own kind of properties to it. If it was a cyberpunk windmill, I don't think that it would look like kind of the standard windmills that we know and see today. And so I'm going to challenge you to kind of rethink that geometry in some way. To me, it looks like there's this folding happening where there's many surfaces that are coming together, maybe similar to the vertical style windmills that have been kind of popping up most recently in the last 10 years or something like that. So you might reconsider the geometry of your windmill. If it's going to be a windmill, maybe consider how it resolves itself, other than just as a simple windmill that we see in your model. The other thing I'm going to challenge is that the kind of base condition to that windmill has a little bit more sophistication to it than what I think I see in the model. And obviously it's a draft, so you're working through these things, but those are maybe some areas where I think you have opportunity. The other thing I'll say is that if you model it once and then use it as a block, literally it's called a block in Rhino, you kind of minimize the geometric weight on the computational power that you have. Can you kind of transfer back to your model again for us? Juan Carlos, what do you think?
Yeah, I appreciate the progress. What I will suggest is to be more brave into the modeling, trying to go for a higher level of complexity if possible. To me, for example, it's easy to make an example with this sort of cross building, right? So I still see it very two-dimensional, right? It's like, I understand that this is coming from a 2D image that has been translated into a 3D model, but I will be more interpretative. So why maybe one of these volumes is longer and going back or forward, and just trying to go for a higher level of complexity. And I fully agree in your comments about the windmill. So, because it's kind of the same suggestion, you know, so it's just to be more creative in the terms of the modeling, because then this will be much better as a final result. I can say that perhaps also the sort of landscape can be more complex by integrating other elements that perhaps you can interpret in the 2D image just as a simple line, but maybe in the landscape or in the modeling is becoming a series of vertical elements or something, just to go for a higher level of complexity, because I guess that in this moment it's quite easy to model them. It's not that time consuming, but I think the final result can really change in terms of exploration. And also I see that a little bit too much into 2 dimensions now, right? So I will go farther than this if there is time, of course, but I'm sure this is not something that will take too much time.
So I think, yeah, Juan Carlos, great point. I think that it's important that that you think about this thing in terms of an opportunity to translate, right? And so where Juan Carlos is saying, interpret the elements of the image and then add to them and embellish them in your own way. Can you kind of spin around the model for us a little bit?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, very two-dimensional. Yeah. Okay, so this to me feels like the set of a movie, right? Where it's only made for the scene that we're creating, and that's okay. But I think a better way, and we have the opportunity, it's not like we're limited by materiality. It's only by kind of the time it takes to model things, and even that is negligible because of the procedural techniques we can employ to distribute modeling elements. So I would say get away from this framing as if it's a singular set. I know your intention was to process this through Photoshop, and so you were focused on this one singular scene. But I'm going to say that even your singular composition will be better if you remove this one point perspective, or this singular perspectival preferencing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other thing, let's zoom in on your main object. Let's just kind of dissect that a little bit. Maybe Henrik has some comments or feedback on how we can kind of take this central object and try and translate it in a way that's a little more dynamic or something. So let's go back to, now that we've seen this object, let's go back to the Photoshop for a minute so we can kind of process the differences.
Is it possible to make the window smaller so we can like have a side-by-side comparison?
I guess what Henry is asking if is you can just put together the 3D model and the image, right?
Yeah, just one side is Rhino and one side is Photoshop.
As a follow-up from Spencer's comment, I guess that the real challenge of the exercise is that you are inspired by the 2D, and then you are modeling a 3D. But then when you move to the 3D environment, of course, you have a huge level of freedom, but also you need to control that as a complete 3D spatial space. So I think you really need to break the idea just to have like one scenography, like a movie set, that we understand that that is coming from the 2D, from the style transfer. But then, I mean, the composition is about all dimensions. So I will just move one step forward and try to translate it in a full way. Like this is really a 3D space, right? So even if the image is the starting point, even if that one is like fixing the first step, then I will approach it really as a landscape, a 3D space, because then that is a big challenge, but it's also the opportunity of working in this way. Because if not, it's really too much just focusing to one point of view. So again, it's becoming too much two-dimensional.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Would you mind to turn on the layers? Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, and also the Rhino.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Spencer, did you say something?
Oh, I was just in passing say, Da Xiaohan, thank you so much for sharing your screen. It takes a lot of vulnerability to present your work, especially in a global experience. And so we really appreciate you sharing with us. And I think that it's very, very useful for the other students to see your process and the challenges you're having, because we're able to kind of talk through and work through those things, and then it will totally benefit the other students. And so we really appreciate that. And we look forward to seeing other people's work after Da Xiaohan has finished. So go ahead, Henrik.
Yeah, actually, instead of just thinking about the building, I think one of the things he can try to model is actually the whole landscape, which is the ground level. Because I think from the image, the ground doesn't look really flat. It looks like compiling of lots of rectangular massing. But on the right-hand side, we can see the main ground is just flat. So I think maybe there's an opportunity to find a quick way, just randomly build up a more like a modular ground how to say, the ground floor. So I guess there might be a chance that it can make the image much more 3D from
Henrik,
the scenario. Yeah.
Henrik, do you worry that by modeling that ground plane that he's going to really bog down his computer?
Actually, what I'm thinking is so on the left-hand side is very how to say, very delicate. So I would suggest maybe you can just build some big blocks to have an overall topography and then map the texture onto it. I'm not sure is it clear, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, because on the left it looks like the buildings are on different levels, but on the right they are like at the same levels at the moment. So maybe the buildings can be some pinpoint for the topography.
Oh yeah.
Da Xiaohan, in the tutorial that I did the other night, I showed how to take an object and then populate that object with other objects. And so you could create kind of an undulating landscape, and then from that undulating landscape, populate that with cubic objects. And then you could, what Henrik was suggesting is you could then texture those cubic objects with this kind of granular, delicate texture that you see in the image quite quickly, and it would still have, and it would have a three-dimensionality to it. It would have a cubic feel. That would be a quick way to do it. Good thinking, Henrik.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And also for the windmill, it actually reminds me of some columns in some churches. So I'm not quite sure, do you still have time to work on the windmill itself, but maybe you can take a look, like some Gaudi's building.
Yeah.
Okay. I just put a link, on the chat, so you may take a look, because it reminds me of those more organic columns instead of more industrial ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the style transfer image is more into this direction instead of the industrial, like a traditional steel truss system.
Thank you.
Yeah. But I guess the overall scenario will change a lot once you model a little bit on the landscape.
Okay.
Henrik, here's a picture of the, Da Xiaohan. Here's a link for, it's a really long link. It doesn't even work actually. Dang. Let me try that again. But I have some other links for you here. There we go. Here's another link for, in terms of the vertical style windmill, and then also like this. Let me just find it real quick here. This one. These things, that again, that didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Let me try again. Maybe that will work. Yeah, there we go. Something that has, and these are very industrial and kind of dumbed down. I'm thinking that you kind of have a mixture of the Gaudi image and these other images.
Okay. Thank you.
And I found an image which is not really a landscape image, but you can take a look what I meant about building some big blocks for the landscape. Yeah, this is a machine, but you can imagine maybe only 5 or 10 of them, like a 5 by 5 grid. in the model that you can create some height differences, and then you can map the texture onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's great, Henrik. Thank you very much.
No problem.
So now I'd like to talk a little bit about that main building, if we can. So if you will go back and show us both the Rhino model and the Photoshop, that would be great. So when I see this style transfer image, I see a faceted kind of triangulated form, not necessarily what you have modeled. What you have modeled is overly simplistic. And again, you're working through a process, and this is a working model. You're not done. You know, you're still in progress. I understand those things. My comments are to try and help your path forward, not what you've done, but help you in your progress forward. So if I just do, I'm going to share my screen too. I think we can share them at the same time. If I just do a quick Google search here, and I look at examples here of things that have this kind of faceted construction or logic to them. And I think some of these could really help you in your process and progress with that. With that work. Looks like I have a crash report. Everyone can still see me, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. So some of these examples might be useful to you in terms of kind of trying to translate what you have in your style transfer image into something that's modeled. And if you just kind of look at all these examples, you start to get a sense of how that might work. Even Cybertruck might be useful for you in that regard. But there's some really quintessential examples that are canonical architectural examples that we can look at. But I just wanted to give you a kind of a really broad overview so that you can start to pick out what you find interesting with some of these examples. I think maybe Seattle Public Library is a good one. It's a pretty simple faceted structure, but still has some elements of faceting to it that you might find helpful and interesting. But again, the garden variety that we see in this previous search is also, useful. So hopefully you can find some inspiration in some of this stuff. Henrik, any questions or any thoughts from you?
I'm just thinking a more technical way of him, how he may manipulate the model, which is using the Control Shift and then use the left click, and then you can just drag the control point directly in the model. So it may help you to, once you have a triangulate meshes, you can manipulate the shapes much easier. I'm sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. Is it clear? So.
I think it's Command in Mac. Command Shift, maybe.
I guess so.
Yeah.
No, I'm working on the Windows, not the Mac.
Oh, you are?
MacBook.
Oh,
It looks like
Mac.
Looks like Mac.
No. Another computer, not this one.
Okay. Well, Control Shift allows you to select individual faces.
No, I'm not.
Try one more time.
I mean, I am.
Try one more time. Let's watch you do it. Yeah, you can do an edge.
Work maybe.
You can
choose the edge.
Choose the edge right there. The edge.
Oh yeah.
Choose the bottom. Yeah, and then you can just drag it. So it can help you to manipulate the shapes easier.
You can do the same with surfaces. If you select the middle of the surface, you can select the whole surface. Control Shift. Yeah, there you go. Surface. Not the whole thing. The surface. Yeah, the edge or the. Why won't it let him select faces? I think it might be a setting within your Rhino that's not allowing you to do that. I went over this in the tutorial the other night, so you might go back to my tutorial and look at that again. If you have further questions about that, we can talk offline afterwards and work through that for you. So you can start to manipulate whole faces. That will be kind of key to the modeling of this thing. The other thing I'll say is that I don't think that the aesthetic is such that you want to. It's really difficult to incorporate a faceted geometry and kind of a more curved geometry. That's not an easy thing. I would stick with one or the other, because if you start mixing those two, you get kind of blended results that aren't really successful most of the time. Unless you're really, really capable as a model, as a designer, you're going to have troubles with that. Dashahan, do you have other thoughts or questions or comments you'd like to explore, or anything you want us to look at before we move on?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, who would like to go next? Aaron, can you share with us? Okay, so we've got a student here in the classroom that's going to join. They haven't been participating in the Zoom calls like I've asked them to, but we're going to prod them a little bit and get them to kind of help show us what they've done. I think Erin is a little bit more in the preliminary stages of what she's working on, but I think it will be useful for the participants to see her process and where she is. And then I think we're gonna have Jeremy go next, and then Mia will go after him. So you'll want to join the Zoom call, okay, Aaron? In the meantime, if there's other students that would like to go, you're welcome to do that. But it might be down to my students. Let me go help her get situated just a second. Okay, we're back. Aaron's with us now. Aaron, go ahead and share your screen.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
Let me mute my audio real quick.
I will show the image and compound it on the D part. And this is all the image I create and I choose this one to modeling it. So I just do a little part of this cinema 4D like this, and I try to finish the shape of this to create this shape here, and so it's just
Aaron, can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you've been having with translating the image from?
So I think the challenge is to create this kind of shape here and to make it to create the texture on it.
It's a show us your process.
So I on Cinema 4D I I try to create this kind of shape like to choose some surface here and to sorry, like to make the shape like this. maybe it has some problem here. Yeah, so I try to create some this kind of surface which maybe is similar to this kind of shape here.
Does anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions for Aaron?
So does it work a little bit like the sub-D in terms of the modeling method?
Okay.
Does anyone have any thoughts, comments, or questions for Aaron? I'm sorry, I was muted there.
So does it work a little bit like the sub-D, the modeling method?
Can't hear.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Henry.
Okay. No, I'm just wondering, is the modeling method similar to sub-D?
It's Saarinen that is muted.
Yeah, I think they are muted.
Oh, there we go. I can hear you now. Can you hear Aaron?
Okay.
You can't hear. Go ahead, Henrik.
Okay, so I'm wondering, is the modeling method similar to the sub-D modeling method?
So Aaron, he asked if the modeling method is similar to sub-D modeling method. I'm going to go ahead and venture to say I think it is.
Okay, so maybe because when I'm looking at the concept image, I think it's actually can be consist of a few components and trying to bridge them together. So it may helps her to model it more easier. Sorry.
Say that again, Henrik. Say that again.
Yeah. So from his from her concept image, I think this is like instead of just one sphere, it's actually more like 2 or 3 pieces bridging together. So if this is a sub-D model method, maybe she can model a few pieces and try to bridge them together to create that that sculpture thing.
Yeah, I don't even think she needs to bridge them together. I think she can stop at just having several objects that are unique and a part of a system, but not one geometry. I think that's really good insight, Henrik. Yeah,
and another thing is I saw that from the original image, there is some people walking down there. So I'm wondering, is she keeping the same scale or considering it as a new building? Because it may also affect the design too.
Share your screen again. Aaron, what kind of a scale do you imagine this thing is? Can they hear? Can you hear that? Hear her?
No.
Only some echoes.
Oh, you have echoes? Okay, hold on just a second.
I think she's muted.
I think I imagine it's like maybe 1 meter high device which can have some interaction with people. So this is my first imagination about this device.
I didn't get it. Sorry. What you said? 1 meter?
Yes, you say 1 meter tall.
Yeah, maybe.
One meter where? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Having the multiple Zoom calls in the same space doesn't seem to work very well. I'm sorry about that. She's thinking about a 1 meter tall device.
Okay.
So a bit smaller in scale than the architectural scale we're usually thinking about.
Yeah, because what I guess is that you see in the lower part kind of people. I don't know, seems like people, right? I'm interpreting Henrik. So in that case, this should be like, I don't know, like 15 meters. But of course, I mean, it's her freedom to decide. This work is very different from the others because it's more based into just one unique object. But the style transfer here has been, at least from my opinion, very successful. So it's really just now a matter of modeling. But the result is quite impressive. Just modeling.
Yeah, the modeling is going to be the challenge, right?
Yeah.
But I think Henrik has a really good point. You know, these are separate surfaces. My advice to her before class started was that she use a ZBrush-like software and start to sculpt it. But I did mention to her that she should consider these separate objects. But now that I'm hearing your advice, Henrik, I'm thinking it's not about a kind of a brushing or a sculpting in terms of kind of this overall thing. It's more about kind of precise modeling using like a sub-D modeling method as these individual objects. Maybe like this top piece there, and then you have this darker piece that extends to the left of the blackness there, and then you know you have several kind of elements, almost like facade elements or kind of skin or shell condition objects, and those together create this object.
Yeah, I think so. And also maybe can also consider the opportunity of what if it is more like capsule for the people can actually going in, like the original image scale, instead of just a sculpture. Although this is just a design decision.
So occupiable or having this void and this volume inside. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Yeah, actually, I was thinking, okay, I just put 2 images, which is, I think it's from Archigram, but they like design a capsule.
Aaron, click on those images. Click on those images. The chat, in the chat, there's some images he sent. Click on those so everyone can see. No, in the chat, the Zoom chat. Click on those images there. Those are images that Henrik sent. Go back to those images. Can you share with us those images Henrik sent?
So what I share are like some old images, and then I think what she's doing is like a futuristic version of them.
Yeah, great insight, Henrik. Thank you. That's great. Those archigram images are really poignant.
Yeah, and one image from Lepus Woods at the end.
Yeah, I really love that Lepus Wood. Yeah, it's great. Really nice.
Because
I think these are really
yeah.
really good feedback, Henrik. Go ahead.
No, I'm thinking once if she's considering the people can actually be inside, then she has much more design opportunities instead of just modeling a sculpture.
Yeah. So for my studio, I've been telling the students not to think about function for just this week, you know, to really do large scale visioning of what this thing looks like. But I do think that it's important for utility to play a role in the aesthetic as well, right?
Yeah.
For these students here in my classroom, they'll be going after they've kind of created this blue sky vision. Then next week they're going to rein it back in and kind of make it try and rationalize it, you know.
Yeah.
But
so now is the crazy part.
Yeah, but I do think that having some sort of utility in mind when you're thinking about the aesthetic, you know, aesthetic and utility are always married to each other, right? And so, I think that's really wonderful that you suggest this kind of utility as a part of the aesthetic. It's really good. Okay, Jeremy, are you ready?
Yes.
Mia, please.
Hello, can you hear me? 能听到吗？
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I have some problem about my Rhino, so maybe just show my picture. I'm focusing on the tense gravity, and so I add some pictures connect with my tense gravity structure. Yeah, and I most like this pictures, so it's things like connect the tense gravity, connect the like sticks and the rope, and connect the something else above the rope. Things like some small structure above it, and I'm thinking maybe I can add some like small device or small tense gravity structure above the large one. So sorry, my model is stuck. So I think maybe in the model, just I finished this one. It's just beginning, and I just like connect lots of tense gravity structure above it, above this one. And I also add some small pattern, like this pattern or this pattern, make a small model above the ropes. Above the ropes, and but I think maybe I need some like new physical engine to make sure it's stable in the like in our in the physical model, but not only in the Rhino model. So I can add the another ropes and the sticks above it, and also make sure it's stable. That's that. Okay.
Jeremy, I think you got some initial promising results here, and it will be. I saw your model earlier today, and it looked like you were coming along and making interesting progress. It will be interesting to see how these results play out. Anything from Henrik or Juan Carlos? Don't feel obligated to comment, but if you have anything you'd like to share, that's great.
So is he modeling in both digital and physical? Because he mentioned some ropes, or they are all in computer.
I finished some like little physical model.
Okay.
But it's so simple tense gravity structure. So I want to make a like complex one. So I think maybe I can finish it firstly in Rhino, because it's hard to control the like the rope and the sticks. I need to like finish the digital model and then try to use a better sticks to connect them. Sticks and the ropes.
I see. So it's basically a tensile structure, right?
Tense gravity. It's like things like to use the sticks and the elastic strings.
I see.
To make sure like the sticks will not touch each other, and just use the ropes to connect the whole structure.
I see.
Like this one.
So would you mind to type the, because I'm new to this type of structure, can you type the name of this structure in the chat?
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh,
okay. Okay, got that. Thank
you. Jeremy, go back to your model.
Rhino one?
Yeah, Rhino. Henrik and Juan Carlos, I think that one of the interesting things that he's trying to do is he's thinking about tensegrity not as kind of an independent system, but also trying to merge it back with everyday life, or kind of composite tensegrity in a way that's not, I don't think has been done much yet. And I think that that's something that has come out of the style transfer process a little bit, where a lot of times with past examples, past precedents of tensegrity, we see a very pure execution of tensegrity, And with this style transfer, we're seeing kind of a hybridization or compositing of tensegrity with other systems, with other ideas. And I think that's where the richness comes in.
Yes.
I'm only seeing the Deep Art IO style transfer page. I wonder if you have two screens that you're sharing, Jeremy.
Maybe that's because the Rhino is stuck.
He has this very complex, interesting Rhino model, but obviously he pushed Rhino too hard, and he hasn't been able to get what he wanted. Well, thank you, Jeremy, for showing us your progress. I think we'll have Mia share with us hers next.
Actually, it reminds me of a project, so I just want to share an image.
Yeah, please do.
But I think it's not the same type of structure.
Oh,
but
yeah.
This is a zoo by Cedric Price. So I think it's a more standard structure, but he tried to use it in an unconventional way. So at first I thought they are kind of connected, but actually it's not. So yeah, I just want to throw out that.
I think it is. I think it's an unconventional use of tensegrity, but I think it is a tensegrity structure.
Oh, okay, so maybe it is.
Yeah.
So maybe
Good.
you can
Yeah,
take a
great
look
source.
because it's a build project.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's built. This is a this is a collage.
Sorry, I didn't put in real image.
Let's see it. I want to see this. This is amazing.
Yeah. So it means his image is successful because I can connect to it.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Henrik, this is a great example where we see, I'm going to share my screen so that everyone can see what we're looking at here. So here we see the built object, and then we can see the image before. And there's just something that's quite romantic about this and beautiful. And I think part of it is that, like I said earlier, it allows for our own interpretation or our own kind of lenses to play with the image. It's just ambiguous enough that we can kind of superimpose our own ideas onto it. And then this photograph, the photoreal, takes all that ambiguity away, and it's not nearly as romantic as the rendering is, right?
Yes.
And we're facing that same challenge with the style transfer, exact same problem.
Yeah, I think so. So it's actually a similar process, but not using style transfer only.
One of the things that I feel like is a letdown in the real photograph is the thickness of the tubes. We have these very slender, beautiful, proportioned tubes, and then we get these kind of beefy, chunky tubes in the final result.
Yeah.
The other thing is the lightness of the screen or whatever it is. And then we don't have that lightness here. It's like it's not opaque, but it's much less transparent and feels so much heavier than the image shows us.
Yes.
Yeah, really nice example. Thank you. Okay, looks like Mia's ready to share.
Hi everyone. Here's the process of my working. I haven't started
more done yet, but I would like to share some and the process I created my works. So here we can see actually I use some physical things, especially this folded things is connects to my last project as the main object. Then I use this kind of architecture analyzing drawing and to add in some texture of these physical things and to see what happened and what texture it could have. For example, this one, I think it's and some details of for this physical things, and maybe it can be a kind of toy that's existing. And for and also for this one, because I think this picture is interesting because it has some textures for it, like the colors, and because for our sessions we are trying to do kind of machine analyzing. So I would like to try this kind of machine techniques or a kind of texture of machines to something that maybe this one is a little bit abstract, but I think it works. Also, the things and here is my analyzing drawing for my toy. For this process, I would like to use the drawings I have, and also the idea is to add some texture for it and to create something that that's something I want to show in something I could imagine in three-dimensional. And for also these works are on the bottom. This work is some combination of the analyzing drawings that I would like to create something that's because we know that the analyzing drawing have perspective, so I would like to create that something more texture on it. Also for this one, because we can see actually we can imagine it in three-dimensional because it's actually changed some texture of the original one, and maybe we can see it can be as a small scale or a large scale. So and the rest are some large scale things for like this one that I can imagine that there's some bridges and to connect all the parts, and here's the bottom and here's the top of this world, and also some maybe stairs go down. Yeah, I think that's also this one, also bridge things that I created for maybe in large scale create.
Yeah, maybe you can point out all of the drawings that are your original drawings that you made, and then put them in the style chart.
Okay, so okay. So actually, we can see here is that the drawings I created, that I do in my last work. Also that here's folding things that I'm creating in like use a two-dimensional paper that's in then folding them, then learning the trade of the structures, then put it in to change a three-dimensional to change a two-dimensional things in three-dimensional. And also here's the work I did. It's a stars. So at first it's a flat paper. Then then we give a power that push here and here, so it can running then into a really small things. I guess maybe a star. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's all the things so far. But, yeah, that's what I'm doing for my past work. Yeah, and thanks for your listening. Yeah, that's all.
That's great. So you start from a very small scale first, and then now trying to use that as a starting point to develop into a building. Is it what you are doing now?
Yes. I'm trying to use this kind of maybe it's not related to a building, but I'm adding some texture for these things, and I'm trying to create that maybe to change the scale of these things and to make it a totally new things. Maybe maybe it's an architecture, or it's just for something or a toy. Yeah, that's what I'm doing right now.
Is there any favorite image that you would like to push forward? Because I saw you have many amazing results, and I'm wondering which one you prefer the most.
I guess maybe this one, or this one, or this one, because it's related to my last work that's which I could see some three-dimensional things, and also the space of this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got that. Wow, it's really good. And I think there is maybe two comments I can think of. One is that because when just Spencer just showed the model, it is actually having a sequence. So maybe if you are trying to test with paper model image, so maybe you can use the same setting, but a series of image, which is like growing. So you can compare how the style transfer image might change at this sequence. This one thing I'm thinking of, because your original model is about a movement. So maybe it's good to still keep some elements of it. So do you understand?
You mean like to
Yeah. So if you want to push forward the idea of the device, so maybe instead of just one image, you can use 3 sequence from the closest to the and then see how the style so to see how it changes the style transfer image. And then that's good. And another thing I'm thinking of is from your favorite image, I saw there are always some red in it. So I'm not sure is that an intention or just the result of the style transfer, but maybe you can also think of more philosophical way, like Chumi. So he did a park. I'm not sure. Do you know that? There is a park in Paris, and then he used all the red dots to represent urban grid. But people can actually go to those red dots as sculptures. So actually, your drawings remind me of that, but more complex. Instead of just a grid, you actually have sorry, can you go down to your favorite image?
Paper image, which one do you mean?
You have, yes, this one.
This one? Okay.
Yeah. So I can imagine there are some spirit from this image I can see. I'm not sure, do you know which project I'm talking about?
Could you remind me the name of it?
Yeah. Okay, let me just.
Lavalette. Parc de Lavalette.
Yeah.
Henrik, that's an interesting comparison between this drawing and the Parc de Lavalette drawings.
Yeah, but a complex version.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Really helpful.
Really looking forward.
That's just not a model. Okay, now we're going to have Latika share with us her work. Yeah, I think there's something extra nice about using your own work in the style transfer process, or starting somewhere and then moving into style transfer and then coming back out of style transfer and continuing the making process. It adds an extra layer of richness that I think is useful for sure. I think that anytime we can start to layer on complexities, you get a much more interesting project for sure. Yeah. Okay, Latika's just getting on here.
Hi. Can you hear my voice? My project is the instant city, so I do a class for it. And maybe you wonder why there's no that project like the bloom, that courage, all the things in the sky, and here are the air shape. That's because maybe I will redo these drawings like in my experience for use helium to do the folding, and just like this one. So in this experiment, I may use Boolean and style and disclose to do something that can fly and can cover all the cities in the sky. So maybe I will also do the ground for this one. So here now you can see the ground here. And my idea for the my city design, I want to create like you have the original city on the ground, and you have something like can move around in the sky, and they can create a public space by like fly down and have something that can extend to the ground, and people can get together here and have a place for gallery or something. And this is like the production of the energy for the city. And these are maybe the cities that can movable or can only stand for a week or a month. And other cities are like for in memory of something. Maybe the city nowadays, and this whole part just like my idea for the future city. Yeah, that's how the instant city creature thinking about to have a city that's to have the connection of the architecture nowadays and the architecture in the future. Yeah.
So I just want to say I think you hit something quite interesting here. Most of the time, I've been thinking that you need to try and take the image and take it into 3D in order for us to get a sense of the environment. But the way you've been moving around these objects within this kind of 2D composition makes it so that we start to get much more of a dimensional feel of the space just through the movement of the objects in the image. So in my mind, I can see this two-dimensional composition becoming an animated sequence that will give us a true sense of the three-dimensional kind of aspects of this object. So I'm going to encourage you, instead of taking this into a 3D model, I'm going to encourage you to stay here in Photoshop or take these elements into Adobe Premiere or in After Effects. Start compose these things as a movie, just from this two-dimensional stage. So I think it's a really great opportunity to try and push this just by animating different aspects of it.
Yeah, I'll start to doing the 3D model, and I have already have an idea of how the final one would look like, and maybe I will use 3D scans to create something for my model, like the mushroom, the reality capture the software. So maybe. For something I experiment and put it in that.
Let's see. You show us the next step. Did you say you started modeling?
As the model, I didn't open it. It's quite large, so.
Can you try it, please? It would be a lot better.
I haven't finished it. Carry, don't open it.
Well, whatever you thought would be great. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's fine. It would be really great for everyone to see what your progress. I know Henrik would really appreciate it, right?
And thank you.
Thank you. May I ask, is style transfer being applied which part of this project?
Like the ground part.
The landscape.
That's a good point. And maybe let's see if you can open up style transfer images so you can show us the different style transfers.
Yeah.
Show us your style transfers.
Okay. So you're picking up different elements using style transfer instead of a big image. Okay, got that. Okay. Okay, that's great. At the moment, I can only think of one comment, which is, I think one interesting is every building is like quite independent at the moment. And then you are imagining how they will communicate in a new city instead of the people moving, but the building staying at their place, right? So I was imagining maybe you can study like maybe a swarming system of how this building will be interacting in the future. So maybe this is one thing when you are composing your city or urban image, you can think of how they actually communicate with each other as buildings.
Henrik, can you share with us a link to the swarming script or swarming plugin using software? You give us a proof for Rhino's link that we want.
Sorry, would you mind to use your mic?
Sorry about that.
So I was just wondering if you could share with us the Food for Rhino link to the swarming plugin you use.
Yeah, the one I used. Okay. I just shared the link, and I'm not quite sure does it work on Rhino 7, but I think it works on 6.
Thanks, really helpful. Yeah, that would be great for Latika to try that.
No problem. Yes. Yeah, because when she was moving on the Photoshop, I was actually trying to imagine how it actually communicates in a city scale.
Yeah, I think that's great. Really, really helpful. Yeah, I think that this dialogue has been fruitful today. Latika, if you'll go ahead and mute yourself, that'd be great. Mute your computer, please. We're getting feedback. Oh, somebody else has their audio on. Anyway, so really great conversation today, wonderful dialogue. Really appreciative of Juan Carlos and Henrik being here today to provide feedback, and looking forward to results tomorrow. Whoever is able to kind of produce results, it'd be great to see what you produce. We'll again start same time, same place, 9 a.m. I don't think we'll use the whole time. I don't think we'll go till 11:30 tomorrow. We'll just kind of show everyone's results as they have them. And then Henrik, I think that Shannon's going to be working to process the images in preparation for the exhibition with my help. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to help with that as well. So maybe after.
Can I help?
Yeah, it will be creating. They have a template that we're using, and it will just be kind of translating whatever work we get into that template and preparing it to go in the exhibition.
Sure.
That'd be great. So maybe you and I and Shannon can get together directly after the meeting, and we'll just kind of go through the work and prepare it then. That would be wonderful. Sure. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate everyone who's shared their work. It makes a big difference to be able to have really interesting work to talk about. So looking forward to seeing results tomorrow. And if there's any last questions, now's the time. But if not, we'll go ahead and sign off. And